Hi everyone, we're Amy and Maggie from ThinkerThemer, and we're back
Hello.
with another episode of Shelfworthy, the series where we evaluate new games to see if they are going to get a permanent coveted spot in our collection, because at this point it is one in and one out. We do not have enough space. So if you enjoy reviews of new board game titles, please hit subscribe, hit that notification bell so you'll know when we drop a new video. But today we are looking at nature, and specifically we have the deluxe all-in edition from Kickstarter. So there's lots to talk about and get through, so let's get into it.
So in nature, we are going to be growing and evolving a range of different species that we want to allocate the right combination of traits to make sure that they stay well fed, stay nimble as well, and make sure that we're not eaten by any other lurking predators who are out there. By the end of the game, we're going to be rewarded for any of our species who manage to defy extinction, and also for all the mouths that we fed, all the food that we managed to put away.
Now, mechanically speaking, nature is an evolution of, well, the game Evolution, which we have very limited experience with.
yeah.
In fact, Maggie's never played it. And I played it a long time ago. So this is really a fresh review of nature and how we learnt and dealt with all the different modules that are in this, because it has been stripped back to a core system and then modules that you can add in that really change up the mechanics of the game. So to begin with, if we talk about the base core part of nature, essentially it runs for 4 rounds, and each round you're going to be getting a new species, and that species is going to start at size 1 and it's going to have 1 population, and then you're going to be managing multi-use cards. So these cards are going to be able to be spent in order to increase the size of your species, increase the population of your species, to generate more food into the water hole, or to add traits to your species which are going to hopefully allow them to survive longer in the game. Now, the main tension in the game is really managing how you're going to feed each of your species, especially when you start to get more and more of them, because there is limited food that is provided in the water hole, and all players are going to want to be grabbing that food and foraging as soon as possible, which means that you do have an option to turn yourself into a hunter. So some of your species could turn into hunters, which means now they can prey on your opponents, but also be careful, they can prey on your other species as well. So then you need to build up essentially your attack points and your defense points of your species so that you can be successful in those head-to-head matches. Now, in the deluxe box, you get a lot of the additional modules, some modules that aren't even coming out until 2026. So we'll talk about those as we talk through our review, but essentially it changes the game from 4 rounds to 5 rounds, and they each add a unique mechanic and generally a deck of cards that you can use interchangeably with the core cards in order to create different species that evolve in different ways. Throughout the course of the game, you are collecting all of your food tokens that you're using to feed your species with into a little bag in the deluxe edition, or behind a player screen in the regular retail edition. And at the end of the game, we're going to reveal how much food we have, plus get some points for the species that we've managed to keep alive. The person with the most points will win the game.
Now let's talk about the actual experience of playing this game. I was very intrigued by the fact that this actually felt a lot more relaxed than I anticipated, because I sort of saw, as a setting, nature, and you have predators, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna be like fighting each other and attacking each other, and it's just gonna be, I'm gonna be fight or flight the whole time. And it actually wasn't like that, particularly when you were talking about the core module. It's like, I'm mainly just looking at my traits, trying to keep my populations and my species sort of well fed, and it's more around, how am I going to be using these cards to achieve that the best?
Yeah, and I really feel like the base game here is essentially just a training ground to get you into the modules, because the base game, there's not a lot going on here. I feel like if you played that a number of times, you'd probably tire of it pretty quickly, so you need to introduce those modules. So when we were playing with other people, we always played the base game first, so you can get an idea for those mechanics, and then we would move quickly into a different module depending on the players that we were playing with, because they each bring something different. But overall, I did want to talk about Maggie's point, which is that it feels relaxed. And I would say it in a different way, that it lacks tension. And for me, this was probably the one problem that I had with the game, given my preferences for different games. I felt like it was quite forgiving. And no matter what you were facing, whether that was, the water hole had ran out of food, by the time it comes around to your turn, if you have kept a card, you can spend that card to repopulate the water waterhole with food and then immediately eat that food. And that felt a little forgiving for me, like I didn't have to plan out as much as I thought I would need to. And then even, you know, when you're hunting each other, I think that's really interesting too, because, you know, if I decided to go after one of Maggie's species, even though I would consume essentially the amount of food equivalent to the size of that species. So if Maggie was size 4 and I was able to take her down, I would get 4 pieces of food. She would only lose 1.
Yes.
And then not only would she only lose 1 population, which is just 1 token, but that regenerates as part of your new species in the next round. So there were all these elements that I feel some of those have changed apparently from evolution, so that they could on purpose make it a little bit more forgiving. But for my taste, I found it a little too forgiving to the point where I didn't have to concentrate as much, which I don't like.
I actually, on the opposite side of that, I really appreciated that, because I'm like, oh, thank goodness. I thought I was going to be like struggling and like being stressed the whole time, where it's like, actually, I can, if like Amy ate one or one of them starved, then it's like, okay, well, I know that it'll carry over. So it's not, all is not lost. And so I actually really enjoyed that, because it meant that for me, actually, the tension is more around, okay, how am I going to use my cards so that I expand my population as much as possible? Because ultimately, at the end of the game, it's going to be all those food tokens, which means that you want to have a lot of those population tokens out. But then if there's too many of them, and I've used all my cards for doing that, then it's like, oh, probably the size is going to be smaller, which means that then every time I go foraging, I only get very little food at a time. So there's that balance. And then also, and then I'm going to be probably very easy to be attacked, or if I'm allocating the cards as traits again. So I actually, the more I played it, the more I enjoyed that as the puzzle, as opposed to being like, what's going to happen with, you know, the people around me.
Yeah, and look, the modules do change things up a lot. So let's talk about some of the modules. I'm going to start with my favorite, which will surprise no one, is Arctic Tundra. Arctic Tundra.
Yeah, we kept singing that song, the Tundra, Arctic Tundra. It's not; those are not the actual lyrics.
No.
I don't fear we're going to get copyrighted by that, because that did sound nothing like it.
Anyway, Arctic Tundra is probably the harshest of all of the modules. So that's why I enjoyed it the most. It reduces the amount of food that's in the waterhole. It makes it so much harder to grow your population. And then it's really easy for your species to freeze as well at the end of each round. So it's much harder to keep them alive. And so that added that extra bit of challenge that I was looking for. And so that was probably my favorite module. And we even combined that with the natural disasters event deck as well, which is another optional module that you can add in, which essentially just at the end of every round, you're going to reveal an event, and a lot of those are quite bad.
Well, it turns out it's a balance. There's like some good, some bad, and we
always seem to get the lightning strikes.
Particularly when we were playing with the Arctic Tundra, it was like, oh my goodness, like this was just an impossible ecosystem to thrive in.
And so there is that opportunity to turn up how mean the game is and how much it's pushing back on the players. And so I did really enjoy that. I'd probably always want to play with that module. The rest of the modules I had a bit of a mixed experience with. So there is an Amazon rainforest module as well, and that introduces some new resources, but it also introduces a way of poisoning each other.
Yeah, so it's more like a haha, gotcha. Because in those one, usually all the traits are revealed, so you have an idea of what awaits you if you were to interact with another player. Whereas this one, you can choose to only reveal at the time that it suits you. So a lot of it is like that, surprise, now you're poisoned, or surprise, now you're And then there's also the bananas. It introduces a different, like the fruit,
which are worth twice as many points at the end of the game.
Amy was very good at kind of, going banana strong, and then be like, what is happening? No.
Now, talking about some of the other modules, so there's the Jurassic module as well, and all that does is really increase the size of your species, because it's introducing dinosaurs, and that's really just more of the same. So that's not a hard one to introduce into the game, and you can include more than one module when you're playing. And then there was the flight module. So this introduces birds, and this is a very multiplayer solitaire style game where you are able to migrate some of your species to protect them somewhat.
Yeah, so it's that thing of where, like, at the end, if everyone's fed, then it comes kind of back to you, and then you get to migrate. Means when you've migrated, you're no longer up for being eaten.
I didn't enjoy this module very much. I found it added like just a little bit too much complication and fiddliness. It kind of broke the flow of the game for me, so I didn't like that one as much. Now, one of the things I wasn't expecting about this game was just just how gorgeous the deluxe production actually is. And so because it is a game all about nature, I'm really happy that they went to so much trouble to make everything biodegradable.
Yeah.
And all of the containers that they give you, the dials, everything is just quite premium. There's a lot of meeples in there. I really liked, and particularly in the deluxe edition, you get a lot of kind of promo packs and things, and one of them was the hunter cards, which normally have just a generic art on them, that had all of these guest artists actually
that's cool.
draw the snow leopard, which was really cool and a nice touch. But overall, I thought it was really well designed from a componentry and from fitting everything in the box. It is a huge box if you get the deluxe edition, so you really do need to love the game. But for what it is, I think they did a really good job of organizing it.
Now, for me, the thing that I wasn't expecting, and I was very pleasantly surprised by, is how thematic the game actually is. So every single card, the way that you're kind of using the cards, how the modules what the new modules bring in, and how the game itself sort of behaves, like everything just made sense to me thematically speaking. So I really appreciated that. Now, the other thing was, for a game that is mostly cards with, a few tokens, I was surprised at how little card reading there was. So like, it was actually in the sense that, I often get bogged down when it's a game where you're like having to, okay, well, what's this card again? What's that card again? Because it's like a handful of cards with each set. It's very quick to go, oh, that's right. The actions are very straightforward. So it's one of those that you can kind of get going pretty easily. Now, I'd be interested to hear, is there anything that you feel you would change when it comes to the game?
Well, I mean, for my personal taste, I did feel like it was a little bit watered down in terms of that tension. So of course, but other people are gonna, like Maggie found that to be nice and relaxing, and other people who enjoy a more relaxing, forgiving experience are probably going to enjoy, working their way through these modules. For me, it just wasn't tight enough. It wasn't punishing enough for my particular taste. It made me, I guess, disengage with the puzzle, which I didn't like. But one little point of feedback I would give is that in the deluxe box, there is of course the rule books for each of the different modules. I found they were a little too light. I understand why you want people to get into them really easily, but there were edge cases that were missing. More examples would have been great. And there was just a few like key rules where I didn't like, that I was left wondering, how do I actually implement this? And so I think they probably needed a little bit more work, but if you buy the expansion separately, I don't know if that's the same rule book or not. So I just caveat that feedback with that.
Well, for me, I think I'll talk about there is a solo mode in it, quite a comprehensive solo mode. And the way it works is it's got a deck of cards that are essentially the different species that will be allocated to the automa. But then what happens is, with the species, the automa, it's going to be essentially replacing a full player. And what I found was there's a lot of facilitation with the automa, because obviously, particularly, as the game progresses and they have more and more species, they all have this card that then has all these different icons that, depending on the cards that the automa gets, it'll decide then, okay, so then you have a prioritization based on who has the icon higher up, and then based on how the icon is represented is what it's doing with that card, if it's spending it to increase size or population, or if it's using it as a trait. And I felt like it's like the automa turn took me so much longer to facilitate than my own turn, that it almost then felt like a completely different type of game, in the sense that it's now not just me trying to use the solo to get to experience my own game and play differently. It's like now I'm just kind of essentially playing two different games. One is how does each card work for this automa, and then also on my own. So it's not the kind of automa that I would usually, or the solo mode that I would usually enjoy. So that's where, again, like for me, finding a way, and again, if you like that feeling like you're competing against someone else, perfect, because that'll definitely recreate that, and it'll keep you busy. It'll keep you very, very busy as you're playing. But for me, I would prefer something that's a lot more streamlined.
And I just, on player count, I did want to mention that I don't think 2 players is the ideal player count for this game. It's probably going to be 3 or 4 players. At 3 players, even just with 1 extra player, it gives you a lot more opportunity to become a hunter, to be hunted, and so it increases that interaction between players. At 2 players, I found like it was too easy to stay out of each other's way and to get everything you wanted to get done. And so, is it going to stay in our collection?
Ooh, this is a tough one, because it's quite a big box, so it's going to take up a lot of space, so it really has to be worthwhile. Now, it does have a lot of upsides for me. I've enjoyed every single time that I've played this game, and the more I played it, the more I've kind of gotten into it. So I'm gonna give this a rating of 7.7 for me. Now, I really enjoy it, but I think the fact that I can't really play it solo, because it's not the kind of solo mode that I enjoy, and the fact that, again, like, it's taking quite a lot of space would mean that for me it unfortunately wouldn't be staying in the collection. I enjoy how it doesn't feel like it overstays its welcome. Whenever I play it, it's like, yeah, that was a right amount of time to play, but it's a big box and it's a lot of things.
Yeah. And for me, it is a huge box, and I don't really love the base game by itself. It's a little bit too watered down, a little bit too straightforward. It's easy to get in and out of for sure, but it doesn't have a hook that I'm like, ooh, I can't wait to play that again. It's a little bit too forgiving. But I do like that Arctic Tundra expansion, but I'm not going to keep a deluxe box around just for this base game that I won't play plus one expansion. And so I can't really see myself playing this game. This is a real personal taste thing. So yeah, if you like a lot of tension in games, I don't think this is it. Maybe have a look at the older Evolution style games, which we're not too familiar with, but I know that they were more punishing. But for this one, I'd probably give it a rating of 6.9. It's just not to my taste. It's really just not a game for me. It's highly thematic, and I'm sure it will find its audience, but that audience is probably not Amy.
Well, and also it's that thing of if you enjoy nature, because I can see like our friends that love sort of nature, like every card, we like, like the thing that happens with Arc Nova, but like multiply it by 1,000, because you're actually evolving the species and going, now it's going to be fast, and now it's going to be like this and that. So I think if you're that type of person, and then the cards also have like the kind of biology facts as well, and so you're kind of learning as you're playing, and it's not that punishing a time. I think some people are really, really going to resonate and love this, but yeah, it's probably not the type for our household.
Yeah, a bit polarizing in our household, but we hope that our feedback gives you an idea of whether this is a game for you or not. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll be back with more board game content soon. But otherwise, bye for now.
Bye.